Hello boys and girls, this is Untitled of course, and welcome back to another Battlefield 3 gameplay video. Got a really nice little clip here for you guys with an awesome little kit or a loadout. It's the smoke grenade launcher paired up with the Sega 12 semi-automatic shotgun with extended magazine and buckshot. I've had a lot of fun with this loadout the last couple of days. So much great fun. It works with most shotguns actually here, to be honest, so it doesn't have to be the Sega, but it's my personal favorite because it shoots quickly. You can tap it real quickly and almost have it perform like a automatic shotgun instead of just semi-automatic. And since it got a magazine, it reloads really quick, like an assault rifle, so it is a beast close up, and usually 2 taps is enough to kill an enemy in real close quarters, so yeah, you can have a lot of fun with it. But that is not what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna talk about how you as a Battlefield or FPS noob or PC noob or even as a veteran can improve your aim, kick more ass and have more fun in FPS games in general. There are 3 very important things to think about in FPS games, and that is of course aim and accuracy. Of course, that's like the #1 thing that separates the noobs from the pros. The best players in the world are gonna be the people that have the absolutely best aim, because having the best aim, it does such huge difference between being able to kill 3 enemies at the same time. Of course not in the back like I'm doing here. This has more about map awareness and map knowledge to do, since I'm using the smoke and like the side of the map to my advantage here. This has nothing to do with aim being good at aiming. It has more to do about being a sneaky fucker simply. But that is very important as well. But most people learn map knowledge and map awareness by time, but a lot of people struggle, including myself, actually getting better aim and getting better accuracy. And I'm gonna kind of share with you guys the tips and tricks I have for this, and I gotta say I credit myself to about 50% of this, because 50% of this is kind of self-learned and self-taught, and 50% of it comes directly from NIP Tweeday, the editor of the world's best Counter-Strike team, Mr. Kevin Tweeday. And he's quite a good quite a good FPS player as well. He doesn't play Battlefield though, the poor sucker. He only plays Counter-Strike, but that's okay as well. I mean, like, whatever floats your boat, I'm gonna make sure you get better at these games simply. First off, we should talk a little bit about how you should pick the best mouse for you. Because picking a mouse is very personal. Just because some newspapers say this mouse is a really good mouse doesn't mean it's gonna be a really good mouse for you. And it's a very personal thing what kind of mouse works best for you. But in general, there's one thing you can always look for to tell a bad mouse apart from a good mouse, and that is something called pooling rate. Pooling rate is how often the mouse updates the information, basically how often the mouse tells your computer where you're moving the mouse to right now. And having a high pooling rate is very good. I would recommend never buying a mouse with a pooling rate under 500 Hertz. Some mouse manufacturers won't even write what kind of pooling rate there is on their mouses on the box itself. Don't buy those kinds of mouses, because those mouses are probably pretty bad. Those kind of manufacturers might only put on what kind of a DPI the mouse have, and the DPI is just the same thing as sensitivity, and sensitivity doesn't make a mouse better. You can just turn up the sensitivity in-game or in Windows, for God's sakes. But the pooling rate is how accurate and how consistent a mouse is. So you should pick a mouse that has a pooling rate of about 1000 Hertz. If the mouse you're looking at has less than I would say 500 Hertz, don't buy it. It's not worth it. No matter how cheap it is, 500 is just simply too low. It should preferably have around 800 to 1000 Hertz. If the mouse you're looking to buy has more than 1000 Hertz, then it's a really good mouse. Of course, there are some other factors that are very important when looking at a new mouse, more than the pooling rate, but the pooling rate is the best way of you to tell if it's a good mouse, the mouse itself. But you also want to have a mouse that is comfortable in your hand. Personally, I like a really big mouse that is kind of flat on the sides and preferably with a groove for the thumb, because I like to be able to grip the mouse with just my thumb and my little finger, and then I kind of rest my ring finger on my little finger, and then have, of course, my FU finger and my pointy finger, or whatever you call it. We call it pekfinger, and that means pointy finger in Sweden, and basically for mouse 1 and mouse 2, of course. So this is something that is, as I said, very personal. It doesn't really matter what kind of a mouse you prefer. If you like a very small flat mouse, then buy a very small and flat mouse. If you like a very big fat mouse like I do, then buy one of those. If you want a completely smooth mouse, no way of gripping it like I like to do, then buy one of those. It's as simple as that. Second thing we're gonna talk about is the most important and the best way of improving your aim accuracy and how much fun you have in different FPS games, and that is optimizing your system, optimizing your game to your PC. And this is completely free, and it will help you even if you have a really bad PC, if you have a really good PC, or if you have a beastly Uber PC. It doesn't matter, this is gonna help you. And I'm of course talking about getting as many FPS, frames per second, when you're playing, because if you have more frames per second, that means the game is gonna be running smoother, and you're gonna have a much more fun time, and it's gonna be a lot easier to aim and move the mouse, because it's not gonna be glitching, it's not gonna be lagging, it's not gonna be stopping weirdly and that kind of stuff, if your mouse of course is in defect in some way. And you might have a friend or two there behind you or beside you or similar that is named Herpy McDerp, and he sounds something like this. But it doesn't matter what FPS you have, as long as you have more than 24 FPS a second, because the human eye can only see in 24 FPS a second. That is wrong. That is extremely wrong. First of all, the human eye can see more than 60 frames per second. Second of all, the human eye is not a camera, it is not a screen, it is not a game, so you can't actually measure it in FPS either. But in general, you can definitely see the difference between all the way up to 60 and more FPS, probably not more than 100, but you can feel the difference, even over 300 FPS. This is why all of the pros, if you check out for example some Counter-Strike pros, you're gonna see that they're playing Counter-Strike on a very low resolution and really low settings, even though they have beastly PCs that have been donated to them from their sponsors and similar. They can afford to run the game at the best possible settings ever and still have at least 100 FPS, but they want maximum FPS, because that makes the game more reliable, more smoother. Everything just gets better the more FPS you have, and that is why you need to have as many FPS as possible. So don't listen to your Herpy McDerp friend that says, oh, human eye can only see in 24 FPS, because that person is just simply not educated enough and don't know enough about what the fuck they're talking about. They probably read something somewhere that says that, but it's just simply not true. Last thing we're gonna talk about is actually your monitor. This is kind of the same thing as with FPS. If you have a really good monitor, you're gonna have a much smoother experience, so your aim and accuracy will improve greatly in all FPSs. So most monitors today have about 60 Hz. 60 Hz basically means that your monitor shows 60 new frames every second, if we're gonna put it in a very simple way. Of course it doesn't exactly mean that, but kind of, so we're gonna stick with that explanation for now until I get better at this kind of stuff. If you have a 120 Hz monitor or better, you're gonna have a much smoother, much nicer experience, and it's gonna be a lot easier for you to aim and get those headshots that you're looking for. Personally, I have a 144 Hz monitor now. I changed it now when I upgraded my PC. and it is just amazingly nice. I noticed the difference straight away, and I think you would notice the difference as well. It's just a matter of fact how much money you want to spend on it and that kind of stuff. So that's why I just put it in there in the end, because it's not the most important thing, but it will help you a lot. It just depends kind of how much you want to spend on getting a smoother experience. As usual, thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.